Welcome to Discovering Metal Bands from Germany, Viewer's Choice. This is the second episode of my series about German metal bands. This episode consists of bands and or albums that were recommended to me in the comments section of my last video. I will be talking about either the album that was recommended or the highest rated album of the recommended band. I used the Metalstorm website as a guide for those albums. So with that being said, I have 10 albums. Let me get into it. First one I have is from the band Vanden Plas. The album is called Christ Zero or Christo. It's a German progressive metal band that's been around for a while. I was familiar with them. I had only listened to their last album, The Empyrean Equation of the Long Lost Things from 2024. I remember I liked it a lot. I think I might have had it on one of my end of the year lists. It's supposedly their best album, so I decided to check it out. It's a concept album about the Count of Monte Cristo. I won't go into the whole story, but it's basically about a man who was falsely imprisoned. The album is over an hour long. It features a 40-piece choir. I thought this band was similar to Dream Theater. Songs are very long and complex. There are lots of heavy guitars. You can hear lots of progressive rock-style keyboards. Vocals are very big and powerful. Songs go in lots of different directions. Sometimes they play a little softer. Other times they get pretty heavy, but they don't really go into extreme metal territory. They just keep it very heavy. I think if you like the best albums of Dream Theater, you can definitely get into this. I like the song Shadow I Am, as it's one of the heavier songs, but there are also some ballads like Fire Roses Dance. Overall, pretty good progressive metal album. The next band I have is called Exumer. I decided to listen to their debut album, Possessed by Fire, released on November 8th, 1986. This is a thrash metal band that is on the extreme side of thrash. I would compare them to Creator, even early Exodus. The music is very fast and aggressive. The album is filled with thrash metal riffs. The production is very raw, but it has the right sound for this type of music. There were some good songs like the title track. It kicks off the album with lots of speed and aggression. There was the track Destructive Solution. That was another song that was very aggressive, but also included a more melodic interlude and guitar solo. There was a track Fallen Saint, which has some intense vocals, as well as some Slayer-style guitar riffs. Then the track Immortal in Black, where they slowed it down a little bit, just to make it sound like that Bay Area thrash metal sound at the time. And then there was a song Sorrows of the Judgment, which was on the more extreme side of thrash. Overall, I'm surprised this band didn't get more attention back in the day. I would say the album was on par with the early work of bands like Creator, Exodus, Slayer. So if you've never heard this, I recommend you check it out. The next band I have is called Accuser. And it's either spelled Accuser or with this like weird S, but I went with the album called The Conviction, released in 1987. It's their debut album. They are another German thrash metal band, and they sounded similar to the one band I spoke about, Exumer. The band has a more extensive discography though. They have 13 albums, and they also released an album last year, but I was not aware of it. I didn't get a chance to listen to it. The album had some good songs, like the opening track, Evil Liar. It was a fast-paced track. It reminded me of early Creator again. There was a track called Sadistic Terror, which is just 3 minutes of speed and aggression, but they have some longer tracks, like the 7+ minute Down by Law, which was thrash, but they mixed in some of that Motorhead style of traditional heavy metal in the guitar sound and had some melodic guitar solos. There was also a 10+ minute song named after the band themselves, Accuser. And it was interesting. It started out with some classical guitar, but then it went full thrash. And the song had a cool bass guitar interlude. But overall, some very good thrash. I like the Exumer album better, but this was still very good. Next is the band Nailed to Obscurity. This one sounded familiar to me. Then I looked them up. I realized they had just put out an album that I just covered. So I went back to one of their older ones with a high rating. I went with Opaque from 2013. That's their second album. It's a melodic death doom band. They formed in 2005. They have 5 full-length albums. The album in question has 9 tracks. The opening track, Inner Me, was dark and atmospheric. It reminded me of Paradise Lost. There were some gothic sounding tracks such as Mythomania and Torn to Shreds with some slow and melodic guitar riffs. I also liked the more aggressive sound of the track Murder of Crows, which had a dark and ominous tone with some deep death growls used throughout the song. There were a few tracks that had more of a melodic sound, such as the track In Vain, which used some clean guitars and an audible bass guitar part to create these different sound textures. Then there are tracks that were a little more doomier and moved at a slower pace, such as the track On the Verge of Collapse. Overall, a good death doom album if you're a fan of bands like My Dying Bride or Paradise Lost. Next, I have a power metal band called Thornbridge. The album that was requested is called Theatrical Masterpiece. It's some epic power metal, came out in 2019. The band has a sound similar to classic Halloween and Blind Guardian. There are some good songs like the title track. It has fast-paced drums and big and melodic choruses, in addition to lots of melody in the lead guitars. The song has some crunchy riffs and those Blind Guardian style vocal harmonies. There was Keeper of the Royal Treasure, had a little more crunch in the guitar sound, but lots of those galloping rhythms. There was a track called Revelation, which showed off more of the aggressive side of the band with some blazing speeds and some angrier sounding vocals. There were some other good tracks like Journey to the Other Side, which had some heavy metal style guitar riffs as well as those Blind Guardian style vocal harmonies. I also liked the song Ember in the Winter Grove, which had lots of influences like folk metal, traditional heavy metal, and the power metal, in addition to some harsh vocals. I thought this was very good power metal and probably better than most power metal albums that usually come out on a weekly basis. Next is the band Necronomicon. The album is called Invictus. They are a German thrash metal band that formed back in 1983. They actually started out as a punk band, which is interesting. They have 11 albums. I remember I reviewed their 2023 album called Constant to Death, and that actually appeared on my end of the year list for thrash metal. I decided to listen to their highest rated album on Metalstorm, which is Invictus from 2012. There's some thrash metal that's very fast and aggressive and very precise. The album has a very good production value. The album has awesome tracks, like the title track that opens the album. It's just fast and intense thrash. The song has some awesome double bass drumming and some cool bass guitar interludes. There's a track Unleashed, which has some tight guitar riffs and some dark and evil sounding vocals. Another song I liked called Thoughts Running Free, which is one of the songs that was thrash, but you can also hear a little bit of their punk rock roots in there as well. And I like the song Unconquered because it had this cool old school thrash sound, reminding me of that Bay Area thrash sound. And I like the song Face to the Wall, which has some clean guitars and a slower pace. Overall, probably one of my favorite albums on this whole list. It's thrash metal, but it has a cleaner and more modern sound as opposed to the other thrash bands that I covered before, which are more on the extreme side, which had the raw sound. This was more polished, but it's very well produced, but I liked it a lot. Next I have Addict's 2017 album Sanctimonious. I listened to their last album. I was familiar with this band. They can be compared to everything from early Merciful Fate to King Diamond and a little bit of Ghost. The album is filled with church organs and falsetto vocals, so you know what kind of gothic candlelit heavy metal ritual that you're getting with this album. The title track was the first one I listened to, 6 minutes of pure, confident heavy metal storytelling. Attic is a band that combines these razor-sharp riffs, high-pitched vocals, and dark narratives about corruption and nuns and all this dark stuff that makes traditional metal pretty fun. It's dramatic, it's very over the top, and they do it well. If you're into melodic, old school riffing with this like theatrical sound, and I think you might like this. The album has a few longer songs like A Serpent in the Pulpit, something in German, Sei Engel mit Sharon, probably mispronouncing it, another song on Choir Stalls. But each track is different. They're creepy, big choruses, these spoken passages, and Annex one of those bands that know how to do what they're doing. They have their influences, so they're not super original, but you kind of know what you're getting. It's definitely a good album to check out, and it basically feels like this like dark, kind of like King Diamond-ish type of band. So if you want to check this out, I recommend check out any of their albums. I have one more band and another one I had never heard of. It was requested, Angel of Damnation. And the album I checked out was called Carnal Philosophy, and that was the highest rated one. And this is just pure old school doom metal. Get their influences from classic doom, everything from Black Sabbath, Candlemass, Saint Vitus, Solitude Aeternus, and you hear it all in all the riffs and all the vocal lines. And the production is very, very raw, very demo-like, but it kind of like works in this context with this type of music. The guitars are very dirty, drums sound live, and the whole album sounds very unpolished, but it fits the music. The vocals stand out. They give the songs this brooding, menacing edge, and some of the good songs include I'll Drink from the Chalice of Blood, which feels like it could have been recorded during Sabbath's like early sessions, and Bow Before the Goat, which is kind of like a very like Candlemass sounding type of song. Now, it's not really the most original band out there. They have their influences, but the riffs are strong, hooks are catchy, and the vibes are doom. It's not groundbreaking, it's fun, lots of riffs, it's heavy, and it's just one of those things that's enjoyable to listen to. So that's all for this episode. As always, comment with more bands and or albums, and I may do a part 3 if I get a good response to this. Check out the first video where I talk about 10 different German bands and some of their hidden gem albums. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe. If you have not already, I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.